showing you a extreme 3D realistic macaroni penguin that is standing up on the little like ice edge, and then there's the water underneath. The water underneath is the prettiest thing I have ever done. I say that a whole bunch of times, but this is really just so pretty, multi-layered, a lot of effects from the Madam Glam Advent Calendar, and I know it's January now, and I had every intention of uploading this pre-January, but life got crazy, and here we are, and it's, you know, no longer Christmas, but very cute. From the Madam Glam 2022 Advent Calendar. Love this so much. I hope you guys check out all of the different Advent calendars that Madam Glam has done and really pay attention for next year's because there's always so many cool effects in those. I hope you like it, and don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!
I'm going to begin with the Madam Glam pudding gel in the color Iron Gray, and I'm going to be grabbing my application brush, scooping up a little bit of that color, and I'm going to apply it to the area that I know is going to be like the smile line, so like the edge of where the little ice cliff drops off. And I'm going to tap that out so it's not smooth. Now I'm going to mix the color Driving Home with some No Wipe top coat, and I'm going to create like a sheer blue watery color. So I'm going to use my application brush again and just kind of mix them. I'm not mixing them completely. I want this to be a little streaky. After I have that, I'm going to apply that over the top, kind of playing around with how much blue I mix in so that I get different levels of blue. Cure that again. Now using the mini foil gel from the Advent Calendar, I'm going to apply a full coat of that over the top of my watery area. Cutting off some of the baby blue foil, which is also from last year's Advent Calendar. I'm going to roll that up and stick that back into the jar, which is sometimes easier said than done. I'm going to then scrunch up the foil so that it is very, very creased. After I have it creased, I'm going to use that to apply it in little tiny dabs over my foil gel so that it is not a smooth coat. Using the Builder White, the Pearly White Builder Gel from Madam Glam, which is like the prettiest color ever, by the way, I'm going to apply a nice, a generous coat over the top of my watery area. And now grabbing my saran wrap or plastic wrap or whatever kind of cling wrap thing you want to say, I'm going to scrunch that up like I did the foil and then apply that over the top and then manipulate it so that I'm changing the way that pearly white gel looks underneath. Cure that with the plastic wrap in place and then carefully peel it away. After that's done, you have this really cool effect where you can see some of the foil through it, you can see some of the gray, you can see some of the blue, but it looks very, very icy. I'm going to encapsulate this with some builder gel. Try to choose a builder gel that is self-leveling, one that is a thinner viscosity on the scale of builder gels, not one that is super thick. I'm going to just fully encapsulate that, going all the way up to the cuticle area, the proximal fold, bringing that down so that you kind of mask some of the wrinkles that are made with that pearly white. I'm now going to file this into shape. You will file through the clear into your pearly white in some areas that are the peaks, and that will give you just another effect. This whole design is so cool. I love the way just that watery base looks. It really gives me an Arctic water feeling. So just go over everything. This is all gel, so file slowly. Do not use a high speed on your e-file. Do not use a coarse grit bit. Use a medium grit bit and a medium speed at most. I'm going to scoop up some 4D gel. This is almost like a Play-Doh consistency gel, and I'm going to then use that to create my icy cliff. I'm going to use gloved hands and roll little bits of the gel, and then I'm going to press it along the area of the nail where I want there to be the snow. And I'm not worried if the free edge, if you want to call it that, looks nice. It doesn't have to look even. It doesn't have to look smooth. In fact, we're going to make it not smooth and even. We're going to leave it rough. I'm going to use the new Madam Glam dotting tool, and I'm going to just take and kind of scuff up that very free edge area of my icy cliff. Press up and down with it so that it kind of presses it really nice and snug against the nail, but also flicks up little bits of it at the very edge. Now that that's done, cure it again, set it to the side, and we're going to be making the penguin. This is the part we've all been waiting for, even though that background is really the prettiest thing ever. But we're going to now make the penguin. So with white acrylic, I'm switching over to acrylic now. So we're done with gel for the time being, and we're going to use acrylic. I'm going to make the basic shape of the penguin's belly. And then I'm going to be adding the penguin's ankles. The one thing to keep in mind is that you are trying to make a slice of a penguin. So don't worry about doing all of the facial features or anything else. Just try to make a nice cut right through the center of the penguin. And then I'm going to be grabbing black acrylic, and I'm going to be making some of the other parts of our penguin that are missing. The flippers. I'm going to do one on each side. I like to sculpt things as they would be positioned. So if it's a flipper on the right, I'll sculpt it to the right of the penguin. If it's a flipper on the left, I'll sculpt it to the left of the penguin. I feel like doing it that way really helps with knowing how big to make things. If you place them close to where they're going to be, don't touch it to the white body base of our penguin. Just make sure that there's a gap between them, but it does help to have them close by, I think at least. So we've got that other flipper on the other side. And then you're also going to want to make a tail. The tail is just a skinny little black triangle. Triangle. I almost said it the way Melody says triangle. She goes triangle instead of triangle. That's almost how that came out in the beginning. I'm now going to attempt to glue that ankle that I made on my penguin to the gel. I know this and I don't know how I managed to forget, but nail glue does not like to stick and hold things together between gel and acrylic. It just is like, oh, nope, not happening. So eventually this did just come off and I sculpted it separately and then attached it later. But for the time being, while it is holding on there, we're going to be puffing up our penguin's belly. Before you start to sculpt anything like this, where you will be seeing this nail, this piece from every single angle, grab as many photos as you can possibly find off of the internet to start getting an idea of the shape. Because a penguin is tipped forward. They've got the butt that sticks out and the chest that sticks out. So do not sculpt it evenly plump on both front and back of this penguin. You need to add more acrylic to its butt area and the chest, less acrylic to the lower belly and the upper back. This is something that you just have to look at and you have to kind of manipulate and work on it. It isn't as straightforward as some other crazy 3D things that I've sculpted. So you have to really just try to pull it so that it gives that penguin that forward momentum shape. Now with black acrylic, add the head. If any of these shapes as you're sculpting them eventually just look like they aren't quite in the right spot, something is too big in one area, there's a bump here or whatever it may be, you are absolutely allowed to file this. So even though I'm talking about how you have to really be careful about where you're placing bulk of acrylic here or there, if it's too much, you can take it away. If it's not enough, you can add it back in later. After I have a very basic start of my head, I'm going to be gluing the 2 flippers in place, one on each side with the wings open, because this penguin is going to be waddling right up to that water's edge and is about to dive in. That's how I envision it. So we've got the wings out so that it can help with balancing so that the penguin doesn't tip over, because they do tend to tip over. I used a little bit of clear acrylic in the armpit area to secure the wings to the penguin's body. Clear acrylic is stronger than black or white is, so it'll just help hold them in place. They're so thin and delicate that that little bit of extra is really important. Same thing on the tail. After the tail's glued in place, a little bit of clear acrylic to make sure that that tail does not go anywhere. After that, and everything is, attached to this point, you've got the wings, the tail, heads on there. Use your black acrylic and start adding the layers of acrylic on the back of the body for where the penguin is black. So we started out with everything white because that gives you kind of a nice base, but now we have to go through and fill in. This is another circumstance where looking at many pictures of a penguin, front view, side view, back view, will be very helpful because you'll get an idea of where the penguin goes white to black, where that shift happens. And then my penguin fell off of the nail. So just take thin acrylic, not super thin like water texture, but not super thick either. You want it to be just kind of like, applesauce consistency, just a little bit thinner than normal. And you're going to fill in all of those areas. The reason you want the acrylic to be slightly thinner is because that will spread out a little easier and it'll kind of help transition from one color to the next. Continue that black acrylic down each of the backs of the legs and, fluff up the tail a little bit and go down the back of the other leg. The other thing you may consider adding when you have your black acrylic out is that you may want to add a couple more points to the tail. Since a penguin's tail is made up of clusters of feather, it doesn't come to just one single point. So I ended up making 3 little points, and with the black acrylic, I'm just going to kind of pull it out into a point on either side of the original one that I sculpted. Once that's done on the one side, turn it around, finish it off on the other side, and then just continue looking at your penguin, looking at your photos, and deciding where there needs to be more acrylic, where there needs to be more bulk so that it does look like the penguin shape. They, like I have said a couple different times, they don't stand straight up. They lean a little bit forward. So just do your best to add that shape in there. Make sure the tail is nice and smooth down. It is very difficult to hold onto this little penguin and sculpt in different areas because you don't want to touch where any of the acrylic is still a little bit pliable because you don't want your fingers to dent it or move it or wrinkle it or anything. So you have to kind of carefully choose where you're holding your penguin and work on certain sections at a time. With very wet acrylic, I'm going to blend out the transition from the white to the black, so it is not a single harsh line. It is a little bit softer. The feathers intermix on those sides where it goes from white to black, and so there is a little bit of a gray area. After you have that done, I'm going to be adding just the tiniest little bit of the pink color that I used for the foot on the inside of the wings. Just a little bit, don't overdo that. You just want there to be a touch of that lighter color on the inside of the wings. Plus mine is a little bit glittery, my light pink color. By design, I wanted it to be a little bit glittery. And that adds just a little smidge of glamour to the penguin's wings. I'm going to be adding more to my penguin's head. That is one area where I did eventually decide it needed to be filed because it just wasn't quite right. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, yeah, it looks a little bit wrong, it's okay, because again, it is fixable 100%. There's no reason to fear having to fix something. So here I'm going to go through with a medium grit e-file bit, medium speed, so that I slowly take away acrylic. I'm going to carve the proper shape of my penguin's head and just kind of look at it. Same thing, you can go over any spots on the body that might need that too, if there are any. But I'm just going to smooth it out so that it's a little bit more rounded and curved forward and continues that line that was made on the back and doesn't look quite as separate from the back to the head of the penguin. After that's done, I'm going to go back with my white acrylic and I'm going to be just adding more where I feel like there needs to be more. The other things that will need to be added to the penguin, just if you want to make a little mental checklist, is you need to finish the legs and feet. You need to add a beak. You need to add, if you're doing a macaroni penguin, you're going to need to add those orange feathers on the side of the head. As you are deciding a penguin to sculpt, definitely look at different ones. There are so many different types of penguins, different sizes, different places where they live. There are some that live, there's the Galapagos penguins that live on the beach. If you wanted to completely change up the tone of the background of the nail, there's just so many penguins. So look them up, try to decide which one you like the best, and then go from there. I added my little pink foot. I'm going to be adding the orange for the beak, and I guess the macaroni penguin's head, like dual mohawks. Mohawk feathers are more of a yellow than they are an orange. So go through and just grab whatever colors you feel like you need for your penguin and very carefully add these last final details. The acrylic that I'm using holds itself up fairly well so that I know, like with the beak, I didn't have to sculpt it separately and attach it because I could pull it forward into that point for the beak. If your acrylic doesn't work that way, you may need to sculpt the shapes of the beak and the foot separately like you did for the wings and the tail and then glue them on in that same process. Hopefully your acrylic will play nice and be able to just do all of these pieces right on the nail, or right on the penguin in this case. If not though, there is always that option of sculpting them separately and adding them on. With those final little mohawks done on the sides, you're pretty much done sculpting. I'm going to finish off that one foot, the foot that is standing on the nail. So I've got one that's standing and one foot that's up because he is kind of toddling around. I'm not going to do those toes yet. I'm going to attach the penguin to the nail with some jewelry gel so that it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to go back through with my light pink and add on my toes. Once all of that's done, your penguin's attached, the jewelry gel will hold fairly well. Everything has toes, beak, hair, etc., etc. Go through and do your final details with acrylic paint. This is a place where you can kind of choose how detailed that you want to be. If you want to add in a bunch of feather texture and do little lines here and there all over the black and the white to give them that extra feathery look, you certainly can. I personally can't help myself. I'm going to use some gray to add some feather texture just to begin with on the front belly of my penguin. I'm going to use a darker pink to add some details to my penguin's feet, black for the toenails, and then I'm going to use just some bright white paint and add some more feather texture to the chest of the penguin. So just go through and add those little tiny lines going all the way down. And then I'm going to use my black acrylic paint, add details to the face of my penguin. Sorry, my camera's misbehaving. But just as you're going through everything, you need to make sure you add eyes. And then if you are going to add any texture, feathery texture to the back of your penguin, use a diluted dark gray so that after it dries, it settles down and it's not nearly as vivid. You want those lines to be subtle. Apply some glossy gel over the watery area of your penguins, of the nail, and then some matte top coat over the top of the penguin, and this is done. Even if for nothing else, if you watch the video for that background, it is just so pretty. It's how I want my nails to be. This might be my next thing that I do on them. We'll see. I really love it. It's just so pretty, and I love the penguin. He's adorable. It's right kind of the type of thing I like to make. So I hope you guys like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.